Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I am fine. How are you doing?
Good, can't complain. Team USA, David, beat South Sudan yesterday. They remain undefeated atop their group, 103-86. What were your sort of top line observations from the game against South Sudan?
I'm super impressed with the job Royal Ivey did as coach. I remember watching him I forgot about this, but I watched him at Texas and I thought, oh man, this guy's an NBA player when he was
Mm-hmm.
young. I don't know why I thought that. I just did. I just remember really liking him. And he never did a lot in the NBA, but I think he lasted like 10 years.
Yeah, he had
So
a career.
good for him. I thought they ran great stuff. I thought they were very well coached. They just ran into a far better team. And South Sudan made Team USA have to play pretty well to win easily,
Mm-hmm.
which they did.
Mm-hmm.
It was mildly competitive for most of the game. That's an enormous win for South Sudan, given that they played them so well in the exhibition. I still think Team USA is playing beautiful basketball. I thought going into the game, we talked about this on our show. They benefited from that first exhibition game. It reminded me of a story. Long ago, I was in the Bahamas and a buddy of mine was coaching at Butler, and they had played Arizona really tight during the season. Arizona was a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Butler back then was not. They were just kind of learning. We all were kind of learning. Exactly. We were kind of learning who they were. Maybe the year before they had done well too. And I talked to John before I went to the Bahamas. John Gross, his name is. Now he's the head coach at Akron. And he was feeling so confident that, we're going to get him this time. And I said, I take a different view. Right. I wasn't betting on the game. My brothers, I'm sure, were. This is before we were gambling. I just said, I think they now realize these fuckers are good and tough. Mm-hmm. And I think you're going to get your ass kicked. And I don't remember the score. John has told the story. I think they ended up getting their butts kicked pretty good. That's exactly how I felt for this game. Is South Sudan woke them up. It doesn't mean Team USA would play well.
Right.
I just thought it was more likely they would. There's still meat on the bone, as they like to say.
Mm-hmm.
We had 15 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we gave up 15 offensive rebounds, had 10. Losing that by 5 isn't so bad. And I think some of them came when the game was in doubt. The game was kind of over. But super impressed with just the way our guys are moving and sharing and caring.
Mm-hmm.
Guy falls down. These superstars are running over to pick him up.
3 dudes going to pick him up.
They're active on the bench. I didn't predict that Kerr would start Tatum. I just said I would.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like the lowest hanging fruit you could get.
Right.
Not playing Embiid, I thought was smart.
Right.
Tyrese, he did what he needs to do. Make threes. Mm-hmm. When he's healthy, he's an amazing shooter.
Oh, I mean, he made All-NBA this year. He's very good.
Right. And half a season, by the way.
Right.
Not even half a season. By January, he was toast. So, I thought Derrick White and Jrue Holiday are my MVPs right now. No, LeBron's the MVP. And Anthony Davis is right there. He's phenomenal. I'm so enamored with that guy's talent still. But, someone's going to have to really play well. And Team USA is going to have to not play well. It's possible.
Of course.
But there's a big advantage, and not just talent, but experience.
Yep.
Olympic experience.
Yep.
Pressure experience.
Mm-hmm.
Booker's picking up full court. AE's picking up full court. There's a real good vibe, and I'm no fanboy at Team USA. Happy to call it like I see it. I'm very impressed with what I've seen.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I want to circle back to what you said about how South Sudan's coached and Royal Ivey. Royal Ivey, an assistant with the Houston Rockets staff. Obviously, he's been an assistant coach
I didn't know that.
For a bit of time now. And I'm sure he's, you be the head coach of South Sudan. He's, showing what he can do because hopefully one day he'll get an opportunity to be a head coach in the league.
One. Based on what I'm seeing, he's really helping his resume. That team, I don't know how many GMs really understand what they're looking at when they're evaluating coaches. I'm just being honest.
Well, they don't know what they're looking at when they're evaluating players either. So what?
Agreed. But the ones that do have got to be seeing, at least in the short term, this guy's got a plan. This is an organized group. They're attacking Curry, which I know we'll get to. Mm-hmm. They're running good stuff, live action, off dead balls. Man, they're playing with urgency, which is not so surprising.
Yep.
I think he's done a hell. He can coach our team in 10 years. I'd be great.
and a great job because, again, when you consider the resources of the United States versus the resources of the South Sudan, right? I mean, Luol Deng basically has to pay for the team out of his own pocket, right? Like this is what we're talking about here.
They don't have an indoor gym.
Correct. Right.
I was in the indoor gym today of a player in the NBA
right.
in America.
Right. This is the point.
His
this
own
is the
gym.
point. Right.
Right.
So when you look at resources, population size, all the things, for them to even be competitive and produce basketball players, NBA players, and professional players is incredible.
Well, to be fair, and I wondered about this, I don't know the answer. How many of those guys were basically developed? I don't care where they're born. I never care where someone's born. You're born where normally your parents had sex and didn't move for 9 months. I don't really care about that. Where did they grow up? Where did they develop? Yeah. I don't mind them playing for South Sudan, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I don't know that most of those guys haven't grown up in gyms their whole life. It doesn't take away that much from what's been accomplished. As a country,
yep.
You could have a lot of talent and put together a garbage team.
We've done it before.
Correct. Or a team of talent that just plays like garbage. That is not happening in either case. They're not garbage players. They don't play like garbage. I don't care if they all grew up in the States. I was just curious. How many of them are like Wenyan Gabriel has been around in America for a long time. He's as American as I am. I don't know about the other guys. I know that they're good players, man. They're good players.
And they're very athletic, David. And, it made sense for Kerr not to play Embiid, right? The way that South Sudan was going to play was going to be a lot of up and down. And I feel like Embiid, probably not the game for you, my guy, against these guys. So I think that's going to happen, right? Like this team has 12 guys on it, 12 guys who are all the man on whatever team they're on or co-man. You can't play 12 guys at once. And it's 10-minute quarters in FIBA, right? So your whole situation that you're accustomed and used to in the NBA, it doesn't exist here. It's a very, very different ballgame.
Yeah, we actually have 10 quote unquote men.
Right.
And then the two best role players in the league in White and Holiday.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. They might be the man on a bad team.
Right.
And put them on Toronto, they'd be there with Barnes. But on Boston, but that's exactly what Kerr needs.
Correct.
Those are the two guys you don't rest.
Yeah, correct.
Right. You rested Tatum and Tyrese. Now you rested Embiid. They got Puerto Rico next. Yeah, it shouldn't be too competitive.
I don't think so.
And so I'd rest KD, LeBron. KD's been resting for a while.
Yeah,
so maybe not
some
KD,
months off. Yeah, he played 22 minutes yesterday, and doing his thing. David Henry put an interesting question into our chat that I thought was worth discussing, and it's something we talked about with Bam last season. Bam hit some threes in that game against South Sudan, and his shot looked good to my eye. I want your coach's eye on that. He was 2-3, and we're like, ooh, this is exciting. So what does that mean going forward for Team USA and for the Heat this season, right? Because your big thing is you like 5 weaponized guys on the floor, right? Because that makes you just fucking impossible to guard, because then you're like, everybody's a live wire. But there's a balance you have to draw, right? Between everyone doing everything and, listen, we want to get the best possible shot. So let's talk about Bam. How does the shot look? And then we'll talk about Team USA and what this means going forward for the Heat.
I thought Bam looked good shooting the ball last year in the regular season, just didn't shoot threes. I thought he looked good in the playoffs where he shot a few and looked good. He's got a beautiful 18-foot jumper, so it's not that much farther out. It looks super smooth, great arc, good follow through, pretty good balance. I don't know what it means for them because I don't know if he's willing to take it when it matters. He's taking the shots right now in largely meaningless possessions, meaning they're going to win or not win. He played great separate from the threes, but he needs to take them. He needs to take them for Team USA. It means just what you think it means. It means we can have another plus defender on the court that's also a weapon. And so when you've got LeBron and AD and KD and AE, nice to have the 5-man who can drag your big out there. For the Heat, I think it's a game changer. I think Spo's got to be willing to got to be challenging him, cajoling him, shoot. I've often contended that he should be playing more 4 and Butler the 3. They drafted a kid out of Indiana. I would not play him. They got Kevin Love and Thomas Bryant as the real backups. I'm friendly with Thomas. I'll be honest, but I know what he was doing for the Lakers when he had a chance to play, and he really hasn't had a chance to play since. but he didn't forget how to play. He was averaging double figures off the bench for a good Lakers team when he was playing.
Yep.
I'd love to see him next to Bam and Butler. He knows how to play, plays hard as hell, rebounds his ass off, shoots the three also. So now Butler would be your worst three-point shooter on the floor. I mean, I think Bryant's been over 40% from three 4 times in his career. Bam looks great. Miami Heat with Bam at the 4 with a shooting 5, whether it's Love or Bryant in a combination, and Jimmy Butler engaged in a contract year at the 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty interesting because I think Bam is a very underrated player personally.
Yeah, for sure. And so with Bam, a lot of it is, to your point, right? It's confidence. Maybe he's like, oh, I don't want to start missing him, right? Like,
yeah.
And his hat and his identity is so much being such a great defensive player, right? And scoring within that 18-foot and closer range. You're like, I'm very good at this, right? It's probably even for pro players, right? To kind of feel that. You're like, oh, I missed 4 threes in a row. Fuck it, I'm not doing that shit again. I'm going back to what I do. But you're like, nah, screw it. Miss 10 in a row. I don't give a shit. Keep shooting threes.
Yeah, time and score matters, of course. How you feel matters. If you don't think you're going to make it, you shouldn't shoot it.
Yep.
You shouldn't think you're not going to make it. Your self-talk is super important. My experience with great shooters, and I've been around a long time, is they tend not to get emotional about misses. The player I was shooting with today, he tends to yell the F word really loudly when he's off. He's not a great shooter, although he's had good shooting years. Today, it was great. He was saying, ay, ay, ay. I liked that. I actually texted his agent who wasn't there. Like, I can deal with that energy really good. Be a pirate.
Right.
Don't be cussing up a storm. I just think it locks you up and makes you tense. And my best shooters, with very rare exceptions, man, you have no idea if they're hot. You have no idea if they're cold. They just know they can really shoot. And if they miss 3 or 4 in a row, it's a surprise to them. They just kind of lock in and they don't panic.
Yep.
I really like that. And so Bam needs to adopt. Bam's shot looks great, buddy. Just let it go. Time and score matters, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But trust yourself. We trust you. And Henry knows this story. Way back, Jarod, when you were a wee little guy. Trevor Ariza was playing for the Lakers. So
no, that was like, what, 10 years ago? 8 years ago?
A little more than that. A little more than that. But Henry asked me on, maybe it was even Troop TV, I don't remember if it was an interview or not, why is Phil Jackson letting him shoot threes? So this was the year they won the championship over Magic. So whatever year that was.
Yeah.
I said,
2010.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right.
2010.
I said, I don't have any idea. But maybe it's because he knows I've got to have Trevor on the court in the playoffs. He's too good a defender to have on the bench, but they're not going to guard him. So if he's going to make threes when it matters, he's got to miss threes now.
Yeah.
That was my guess. And he ended up shooting, I think, 40% for the playoffs that year, not for the regular season. And so Bam's earned even more of a privilege from Spo. You got to just let him keep chucking it up, learn from his misses, learn the emotional aspect of those misses, how not to get emotional. And I think by playoff time, if not before, certainly could be before.
Right.
And maybe these games will help build that confidence. Remember, it's a shorter line. But it shouldn't matter that much for a guy's 6'10", whatever. He should reach it, no problem. Yeah, I think that it makes Miami a very different team if he's out there stroking threes. Because you're just dragging that big out.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, one of Coach Thorpe's favorite sayings, right? Get off the roller coaster, enjoy the merry-go-round, right? That's a great way to think about shooting, right? It's just round and round we go.
Well, just to finish that point, I was having lunch this summer with a player and one of his agents. He said, the agent said something like, what are some things Coach Thorpe has helped you with in your career? And he said that was the first thing he said. I was really surprised. Quite frankly, I wish it was something about a move or just the ego in me. But it was basically that silly little comment. It really came from the movie Parenthood, where the grandma says that the merry-go-round just goes round and round, but she likes the roller coaster. Well, I get that in life, but on the court, not good. the game already is a roller coaster anyway.
Correct.
So yeah, he said, I really get in my own head with the drama and oh my God. And he's like, I just think about Coach saying, get on that merry-go-round and just do your thing and lock in on that. Bam is so good at so many things. Like I said, ain't no one saying a damn thing to him if he's missing threes, Jimmy included. Correct. He just does too many things right. He's such a great teammate, such a great leader. Yeah, buddy, keep shooting it, put a good stroke on it. Don't second guess yourself. Learn a little bit too. maybe that wasn't the best shot here and there. You can, like, Jrue Holiday still takes some bad shots.
Mm-hmm.
Jrue Holiday's one of the best players of all time as a role player. And still sometimes he shoots. I'm like, what are you doing, Jrue? Like, run your stuff here.
Right.
But I love that Jrue does that. And no one's going to say shit to Jrue either.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Shoot that thing, Jrue. They're not going to say anything else because they want him to keep passing and screening and cutting and rebounding and all the other, and helping on defense.
Right.
Bam's the same way. So let it go, man.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You mentioned Bam, Jrue. Team USA's best lineup, and I've not looked at plus minus, but I'm going to guess it is this lineup I'm going to give you right now. KD, Bam, Ant-Man, Jrue Holiday, Derrick White. As a coach, what can you do with a lineup like that, David? When you're watching basketball and you're like, man, I got KD, I got Bam, I got Ant-Man, I got Jrue, I got Derrick White. Let's start defensively. What can you do with a lineup like that?
Well, you can pressure because those guys aren't just going to be able to pressure you. They're going to turn you over some. All three of them, the three guards.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got length and size at all three positions at the guard spot. Jrue Holiday's long.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a power forward if you ever stand next to him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just not as tall. Derrick White's really long.
Very
He's an
long.
amazing rim protector.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a great rim protector. He's a great paint protector because he's really good at, and so is Jrue, at knocking balls off people's legs and everything, and knocking them out of their hands. Super active, quick hands, amazing hand-eye coordination, I think. And Edwards is just a beast of an athlete, quick, long, aggressive.
Strong.
And so you got Bam as a rim protector, who's not great at it. He's good at it, but he's a very good position defender.
Mm-hmm.
And then KD in fits and spurts can really be an elite defender. He definitely knows how to play.
Mm-hmm.
He's my favorite guy in the league at the early high-hand contest because he starts it before the guy even tries to shoot it. KD will guard you and just put the big far side hand way up in the air. I ask younger players to do that same thing. I love it. So you've got just five guys that understand how to play defense, value it, because I think Edwards started valuing it in his second season, and can execute with the kind of bodies that they have and quickness. And then the other side, now you've got 5 3-point shooters. You've got the 2 role players next to the 3 role players. Bam really is more of a role player.
Right.
He's not looking to take a bunch of shots. And that's great for Edwards and KD. But those guys are such willing passers.
Right.
And the other guys just know how to play, cut, screen, short roll, back screen, flare screen, pop, drive, quick attack. They got all of it. But I will tell you, so I think that lineup is great, but I'll tell you, man, we're the most fun. America's the most fun team to watch if you exclude the dunks. They're still the most fun team to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
That ball's, if they were tracking passes like
it's popping.
I think we're passing more than anyone in the game.
It's popping. It's popping. No question about it, David. Of course, that lineup also can switch defensively, right? 1 through 5 should they want to, because the strength. Not that, look, you don't want Jrue guarding 7-footers. Well, as a habit.
I would argue that, of course, you're right, but I would say you'd like to have some rim protection, and Bam is the best guy for that. But the nice thing about what you're saying, Jarod, is they're super versatile. So you can switch for 3/4 of the clock if you want. You can switch maybe the first screen and then play a little differently, blue it, ice it, just drop down.
Yep.
You can pick up full court.
Yeah.
I mean, KD's the only guy that you really just let him pick up the last guy down, whoever it is. The other 4 guys can all play up, and the 3 guards can definitely play up. So, Kerr's got an embarrassment of riches.
I was just going to say, embarrassment of riches.
Because you could play Tatum at the 3 instead of Edwards or White or Holiday.
Yeah.
And that group is also still really good. Yeah. Yeah.
It's you mentioned the ball popping around with these guys. And I wonder, and it isn't, I want to make sure I say this the right way. I don't think any of these superstar players think that their teammates, when they're NBA teams, are bad NBA players. But when they're around each other, it's just a different kind of thing. It seems even more willing to get off the ball because it's like, look who's next to me. It's not NBA, even though Derrick White and Jrue Holiday are NBA role players, they are the elite of the elite NBA role players. So there's nobody next to them. They're like, I should probably fucking shoot this, whatever. Like, they're like, oh yeah, I'll happily get off this bad boy. Look who's next to me. Steph Curry, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards. Like, that's, as you said, an embarrassment of riches. So I think it creates even more of an unselfishness because you're like, no matter who I give the ball to, good things are going to happen.
in that book and in the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, there's this great scene where the Josh Waitskin's dad is talking to his teacher, whatever grade, third grade, whatever, and she calls it a chess thing, and he says, "You're being disrespectful. He's better at this than I've ever been at anything. He's better at this than anything you'll ever do in your life, basically." And when I watch the Olympics, that's all I can think about. Right? These people from all walks of life, and rich and poor countries, rich and poor families, they're better at this than anything I'll ever do in my life. And which inspires me to try to be better. Mm-hmm. But the reality is I'll never be at that level probably in anything. But in my tiny little world, I've got some experience and some talent. And so growing up, going to camps, the few times a year where I'd be at a high-level basketball camp, there'd be like 3-4 dudes my age. Man, we would nerd out at the ground round in Pittsburgh. Shout out to anyone who from 5-Star listening. And I told you, my nickname was Lipton. But those guys weren't drinking beers either. We were X and O and arguing about shit. And I felt like, I'm with my people. And I'm still friends with those guys now. Some of them really good friends. And so what it must feel like to be the best in the world and be surrounded by other guys that are the best in the world. And you made this point right away in our first podcast about Team USA. Everyone's kind of checked their egos at the door. Mm-hmm. Edwards being the most concerning one, I thought. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was worried about it with that quote that he had.
But he was
and
just
then it turns out he was kidding.
Right. He was just being Ant-Man.
He could not be any more delightful of a teammate. All of them, though. I mean, AD is he's a bit of he's not the easiest guy to play with over the course of a season, in my opinion.
Enigmatic is probably a good word for him.
I don't think he's a ray of sunshine. Mm-hmm. I don't think LeBron's a ray of sunshine all the time.
Correct.
Team USA, those guys are amazing. Mm-hmm. I've been watching.
Yes.
I think they're amazing at how they're handling it. What a delight. Yeah. So I think they're just surrounded by, again, it's like the Beatles.
Yeah.
At the time when they were all the best at what they did, they were all together and just jamming.
Yeah.
You can't it's like a sun. It's going to wear out fast, but it's shining bright right now.
Oh, yeah. It will end at some point, right? But right now, enjoy the ride if you're Team USA. All right, guys, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, continuing on the Team USA theme, I've watched both their games, and this is my basketball eyes, and I would love your thought. This is not rocket science. I am unconcerned about Stephen Curry on the offensive end of the floor. Unconcerned. Like, his gravity's still there. He's missing shots, but so what? We talked about shooting at the top of the show. Like, I'm sure he's not worried about anything. It's like flipping a coin, right? If tails comes out 20 times in a row, head's not sweating at all. Steph ain't sweating offense. What I have noticed, however, though, is not only South Sudan, but the first game Serbia, teams are attacking him on defense. He is picking up early foul trouble. It seems like guys are able to get by him, not easily, but maybe easier than they should. What are you seeing on that side of the floor from Stephen Curry?
Well, I want to talk about both sides. Offensively, I'm not concerned for the NBA.
You're concerned for Team USA?
Yeah, because he just doesn't get the ball very much compared to what he's used to. And I've said this for as long as I've been in the media, because I was already doing NBA stuff before that. My players in the NBA, the guys that I help and so forth and talk to, who are integral parts of the offense, have a much easier time finding their rhythm after bad starts than the guys who are lucky to get 6 shots a game. I famously had the guy, Kevin Martin from Sacramento. He had a whole bunch of games where he sort of like go for 7 and still score 25. If you're getting 12 minutes, 8 minutes, a half, whatever, good luck with that. It's not going to happen. And so Steph is just always everything is revolving around Steph. We've joked about Kevon Looney being baby KD, not in Golden State. Screen, pass. It's all about Curry. And understandably so. That's not how Team USA is. So I am a little Steph may get to the point where he's unplayable. Because if he's just not getting the ball very much and he's not effective offensively, now we get to what you noticed. And so this is very much the non-NBA way. The non-NBA way in attacking offensively is you can't rely on superlative talent alone. It's got to be tactics. And so in the NBA, more often than not in Golden State, to be fair, not in Indiana, the random fluid style of basketball. Everywhere else, it's get the ball to our best player after you set some screens to set him up against your weak defender. And then it's ISO, but teams know what's coming.
Right.
It's not how the European teams play, or South Sudan for that matter. It's more tactical. So now Curry's on an island, and it's not so obvious that he's in trouble until and so you play that guy off the court. And so I'm telling you, there's a scenario in this tournament where Curry gets played off the court because he's just not getting the ball enough offensively.
And okay, so to continue following up on that, he's not getting the ball enough offensively. He's being attacked on defense. Is his gravity still not enough to offset all those things on offense?
Well, that remains to be seen. We've had two relatively pretty easy wins, He definitely has had plays where his gravity led to just the easiest 2 points in existence. As Team USA plays better and better teams going forward after Puerto Rico, I don't know. I don't know that they won't. I'm gonna err on the side of he probably will end up being fine. But like I said, there's a universe that's right there in front of us that he isn't fine. He's just not making shots, and teams have the discipline to not go 2 for Curry and give up a layup for a dunk for someone else. And then Curry's going to have to not play him.
Do something different.
He's going to give him some, he's such a nuclear presence.
Oh, of course.
You've got to at least let him shoot his way out of it if
no
he can.
Doubt.
And if he can't, by the time he gets to the semifinals, he may play less,
And also, let's put this out there, and I think it matters. Of course, Steph Curry's an all-world player, one of the greatest of all time. He doesn't have a huge litany of international experience. This is his first Olympics. He's played FIBA World Cup before, but has not played Olympics before. So just, again, 10-minute quarters, reffing's a little bit different. There's just things that again, a lot different. Ring is a lot different.
Right. We are playing, you've heard of slam ball.
Yes.
Right. This is grab ball.
Yes.
This is reach ball.
Yeah.
This is foul ball.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I was in the court today with a player. We were trying to work on getting fouled, and I had to make a point of is that it's not a FIBA foul. That's an NBA foul. That wasn't a FIBA foul,
Yeah.
FIBA, there has to be some blood. There has to be a potential bruise, right? There have to be a red mark. You got to rub it out. Yeah, it's not easy to get.
It's like Jokic. Jokic just show his arms out. Like, come on, I'm getting hacked out here.
Yeah. I mean, in the playoffs, I was sending a bunch of film out today on some Durant stuff in his 30-year-old year, this was a 2017-18 season.
So Golden State.
And for Golden State, against Cleveland in the finals. And they're just grabbing Durant. But they're grabbing him without being physical. They're just grabbing him, and they weren't calling it. But it was the finals. This is that times 2. Like, you can really push and shove and bump a lot more. And there's no consistency that I can see at all as to, that's a foul, that's not a foul. I don't really know.
Right. And as NBA fans know, right, a lot of Steph's game is off ball and moving and cutting. And if they're bumping a lot of that and holding his jersey and not letting him run through, and that's right, we got a shot clock still. So LeBron and everybody else out there's like, all right, he's not getting through. We'll go to the next side, right, or whatever our next action is. And so I think it's going to take some time and some working through. But in many ways, this team is lucky, as we said, because of the embarrassment of riches. They're still able to find not find ways, but able to play beautiful, brilliant basketball without one of their better players playing well. So that's right. Most teams in this competition don't have that luxury. Their best player plays poorly, they're probably losing. All right. You mentioned tactics, and it made me think of something. There is this debate in world football, and it's positionism versus relationism, and it's essentially tied down to coaches that like to have specific rules and movements for players based on their position. And then other coaches whose philosophy is, well, I want the players to, for lack of a better term, relate to what they're seeing in the game state to each other, where each other is moving, right? The way Coach Thorpe would describe something like this is the artist brain versus the science brain, right? An artist will just be like, look at this canvas. And just figure some shit out, right? The scientist is like, all right, let me get 4 cc's of this thing and 2 of that. They're very specific and meticulous. Now, of course, the world revolves and flows well when both are working in a symbiotic nature. But what is the balance, David, between scripted plays versus the randomness, IQ, and brilliance of individual players? And I'm asking this because KD had an interesting back and forth with some fans on Twitter, and I'll just give everybody a quick little synopsis of that. Someone said, please, NBA, adopt more FIBA rules and let the best really think the game and play the game like it's meant to be played. And Katie's like, you want to eliminate defensive 3 seconds and the games will be slower, right? He's mentioning like different rules or whatever. And then he goes, the beauty of basketball is not calling all those sets. It's playing off instincts and letting the talent dictate the game, getting out in transition, driving and kicking, playing random basketball. You want to trick play every possession like it's football. That's why our game is beautiful. A guy responded back saying, no, it's not what I'm saying. I just want 1 through 5 working together. And KD goes, random basketball. You're not comprehending what I'm saying. You can randomly set a screen. You can randomly back cut. You can randomly make a pass to the open floor. Focus on what I'm saying. So, David, what say you?
All right, so first of all, there's nothing novel about what KD is describing. And you may find this ironic, but one of the real godfathers of what he's describing, you want to guess who it was?
Of back cuts, plays, and all that?
Of just fluid movement as opposed to sets.
How old we talking here? Pete Carroll, Princeton? Like
70s. 70s college.
70s college. Doug Moe? No, he's not 70s college. He's NBA.
Yeah. Bobby Knight. Bobby Knight's passing game had no set plays.
Yeah.
I learned that high school offense myself. I learned the Indiana offense because our coach was friends with Bobby.
Wilson is a little upset about something.
I think my wife just walked in. I think that basically you can't scout that because they just have so many options on those reads. And I think in general, I agree with KD that the fluidity of our game is at its best. I don't think that's rocket science. I also think it's based on your personnel to some degree anyway. I like how the Warriors play. I love how the Pacers play. I love how Team USA is playing. They're kind of playing like those two teams.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the way Harden's Rockets played, but it was effective, and that's my point. Is your job's to win games. It's not to do anything else but to win games. I do think in an ideal world, if we could wave a magic wand, players would be good enough to play both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no doubt that set plays can be really effective.
Of course.
I happen to think KD is right, although not necessarily in the NBA where every time down, most of them don't call plays.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no advantage right away, then maybe you call a set. I like to call them audibles, like football.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like calling out audibles just to get my guys running some action and then play off that action. You got to get the first domino to fall, so I like to call an action to maybe create that, or at least create the first potential mistake a defender might make, and then play off that. Team USA would be making a big mistake if they played the way a classic European team did, because they don't need to.
Right.
Just everyone's a weapon almost all the time from everywhere on the court. And but I do think that you have to have a little moxie and confidence and swagger as a coach to get your guys to trust the randomness, and then also, in my opinion, find the right times to be more deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it's great to play random basketball, and you're going to recognize this when I say it, when you go to the last 4 minutes of a close game in the playoffs and KD gets one touch.
Correct.
I don't like that. I think that you have to have a little bit of both. The key is I just was telling my son this. He's about to coach like a one-day camp at Alabama. It's called an elite camp. So he thinks he's going to get a team. I think it's tomorrow. Maybe it was today. I'll find out. And I told him, teach him to pass and cut. Teach him to screen, backdoor, get him to play that way. It's just, I didn't realize it was just one day. So he said, I don't know how much I can do in just one day. But I used to play 5 out when I had a team for a week, and pass, cut, pass, replace yourself, fake cut, replace yourself. We didn't screen on the ball much then when I was first coaching, but we screened away. And just get them to be comfortable catching, moving, shooting. If they can learn to do that, you can kind of have a more effective way teaching them the more deliberate way of playing too.
And this is, David wrote a book called Basketball is Jazz, and this essentially is jazz, right? Reading and playing off of what your Jazz teammates are doing, right? What's happening, right? You're not going to all of a sudden step on some trumpet guy solo or whatever, right in the middle of something, right? You're like, oh, wait a minute, right? You want to play with, right? And so it's this idea of, you always say, David, pros read the game, right? Most players play the game, right? Those guys, we're talking PhD level basketball knowledge on Team USA, with the exception of Halliburton, right? Because he's still young, but still knows a lot about basketball.
Pretty
right?
fucking smart.
Pretty smart at basketball, but it's just reading and knowing, where do I go? What should I do here?
And dictating too. Are you familiar with the term the get game?
No.
So the get game is what I used to call this jazz when I was coaching. The get game is I throw it to you. You may be at the elbow, pinch post. You be top of the key, and I go get it from you like a DHO. but I don't have to go there. I can fake and go backdoor.
Right.
I can come to you fast. You can fake handoff to me and then turn.
Yep.
Right. Right. You can give it to me, and you can roll. You can pop. I can then take it to another guy and play another get game with him.
Right.
That's now you're combining things. If people have compared basketball to soccer, there's the comparison. I am effective to some level by myself here, but when I can play with a teammate, everything opens up and I'm much more effective. And so is he, and so are we.
Correct.
And so I think, like I watch Team Canada, I don't see that. I'm not happy with what I see.
Spill us out, Shay.
Yeah, not just Shay. They're 2-0, and they're defending, I think. They're loaded with talent.
Yeah, very good defenders.
But it's a lot more ISO, with a lot less ISO specifically talented players than Team USA has. And now Steve Kerr has got how many rings? A bunch.
Right.
Player coach. Jordy does not, the head coach for Canada, who's now going to be with Brooklyn. So I would caution. I'm not allowing myself to make any judgments on him based on what I've seen from Team Canada. He doesn't have that same kind of swagger. That I have no idea if those players listen to him one bit. I think they'll listen to Steve, and I think also Steve knows how to do it. You can carry yourself differently when you know you've already got their respect to begin with, and they all love Steph, and Steph loves Steve, I think, and so he's got a little moxie with that, and because of it, he did he just did the exact right thing. Tatum didn't play. Start on the next game. Boom. Who's talking about it now?
Nothing. And
Nobody.
And Embiid didn't play yesterday. Who cares? It's fine. Like it's just this is how this goes. Like it's just gonna go like this. But everyone
You're in the Olympics, man.
Everyone will get minutes and have a chance to contribute to a game. It's just gonna work out that way. It's funny. We talk about all this back screening stuff, and there's a video that we saw. We talked about it on our show during the season. It was last summer. Steph was at one of his camps, and he was talking to the campers about when they were playing their game. He was like, and he stopped them during the game. Okay, this is the worst thing you can do. You give up the ball, you go to the corner, put your hands up, and say, "Here, you don't get it," and then you just stop and stand there. He's like, you could always do something else, and this is the stuff, right? You can back screen, you can do a million other things to get yourself involved. And what Hugh B. Brown always says, right? We set screens to make defenders think. If you're just standing there, defender's not going to be thinking all that much about you, right? He's like, oh, this guy's just waiting for the ball. But if you're constantly moving, he's thinking about what you're doing and what else is happening where the ball is, right? And so it's just, this is basketball, right? The ability to be able to think about these things and do those things. And look, Team USA is lucky. They have the best players in the world and doing that, right? So it's a wonderful thing to watch.
And they have a real diversity of talents. They've got they've got monster fives. They've got agile, versatile guys like Bam. You've got LeBron. You've got KD as a 4. You've got Tatum, who's an NBA 4, who can play the 3. You've got these role-playing guards. You have the high-level scorer in two high-level scorers of Booker and Edwards.
Right.
And then you got Steph Curry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and your worst player is Tyrese. Your worst player is Tyrese.
Pretty good.
Who can really be a magical shooter, passer.
Correct.
A very perfect backup to Steph. Yes. So, right? I mean, it just takes one game in these tournaments.
No doubt.
The next game won't matter. I think we've clinched first place.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so we'll be in Paris in the quarterfinals. That's when the knockouts begin. All right, and so
who might they play? Have you looked?
I haven't looked yet, but I think it won't get hard for them to the semis. Is what I think. Like in terms of a real team that, like, ooh, watch yourself. Like, but again, even if they play their best,
nothing should matter.
None of this should matter.
Serbia is as good as any team they can face,
and they waxed them the other day. So
the other team can play really well. America maybe doesn't play so well. It'll be a good game, and that means like up 10 with 6 to play,
right?
Where they're probably going to win the game,
right?
Or they could be up, 18-22.
Through 2 games, David, USA also shooting well from 3. As I'm looking, and that could be a thing, right?
And they're shooting a lot.
Yes,
they're not passing up threes. They're taking open threes.
So that's another recipe for where they can get beat, right? That continued hot shooting doesn't continue, and they're 7 of 30 from 3, and then it's like, oh, that's not.
It's always the challenge, especially against a team like France that can really lock up the rim if they can. Then you're just hoping to make threes. But that's why I think it's good to see them play defense the way they're playing and get out and run, because they're creating other ways to score. Offensive rebounds too. They had 10 against South Sudan, which is good.
Some quick news and notes, David. Gordon Hayward retiring after a 14-year NBA career. I was like, wow, he's been in the league that long? Like, it's crazy how time flies. All-star, really in Utah, that was peak Hayward. And then when he got hurt in Boston, it was really never the same after that, as it is for a lot of players when they get injured. But man, this was This is a very good NBA player, David, who, look, no career. If you made 14 years in the league and you made the money he made, ain't no non-success about that. He is a successful NBA player, but I do wonder what would have happened had he not got that injury in Boston.
I was watching a video the other day. I don't know how old it is, but it was, I don't know the name of these podcasts, but Steven Jackson and maybe Matt Barnes.
That's All the Smoke. Yeah. Those are my guys. Yeah.
And maybe Teague. Is he on
so they might have been a guest on Teague's pod or vice versa, but either way, okay. I know you mean. Yeah.
I think he might have been on there too. Anyway, someone was telling a story. Rasheed Wallace was telling a story about he dunked on, you'll know where I'm going to in a minute with this. He dunked on Joe Klein. Do you remember Joe Klein?
I do.
So do they. Huge man from Arkansas. Yep. And Klein's like, don't fucking do that again or I'm going to light you up kind of thing. And Rasheed had a chance to do it again and apparently got really lit up. And he didn't even complain. He just said it was like a legit foul, but he didn't want to dunk on him anymore. Like the way that Steven Jackson was respecting Joe Klein, in today's world can be so polarized, race being one of the reasons. I never thought Joe Klein was any good,
right?
But I also never had to deal with him. right. So I like seeing that. Well, my point is, Hayward, it isn't Joe Klein. He was way better. I think if you go back, and I've done this myself, talk to players when he was in his prime, he's fucking good. He's a fucking good player. Really knew how to play, tough as fuck. Played a 4 in college with 3-2 in the NBA. Yep. Played some small ball 4 a little bit. Yeah, just injuries are a killer because he was really good.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, that's why Boston signed him to that massive deal,
for sure,
right? Because he was so good for Utah. Don Barlow, a player David, signed a 2-way deal with the Hawks. This is the thing we were talking about a couple episodes ago, right? With where the salary cap is and with teams, they're squeezed. But Barlow's a young player who you think, given the right royal jelly in the right situation, can prove to be very valuable for a team.
I mean, I saw John Hollinger tweet, like, this is, you don't see John Hollinger tweet about 2-way contracts.
Correct.
But he did here. Honestly, it's a shocking mystery. If that guy's in the draft as a 21-year-old, he's a top 5 pick. I think he's got a better trajectory than all the guys got picked in the top 5, personally. And now you're getting him on 2-way teams. Because he didn't get drafted, they just don't see it. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Right.
I mean, he was the worst player in the G League, and literally one calendar year later, he led the G League in scoring. Yeah. And then he played 64 games with the Spurs. I don't understand what they're doing. But my message, if I speak to him ever, will be, like, you got to kick everyone's teeth in. So I've been telling 2-way players this whole summer. It's so hard to get promoted up and go from there. These teams have no vision. If you're a first-round pick, you have so many chances.
Yep.
If you're not, you just don't. And so if you hang around, at least you still have a chance. And you got to just kick up. So for Atlanta, they got Jalen Johnson. Barlow can play some 5. It's not his best position. He's really long, 7'3" wingspan, I think. And I think he can guard some threes. He's super agile. Again, I would have him a top 5 pick in this year's draft. And he'd have been younger than a bunch of guys that made the NBA this year at just turning 21, I think, in May. So, yeah, good job by Atlanta. They're kind of reforming their talent base. Yeah, rebuilding the talent base.
And 21, my God, so young. And that's the thing. David often talks about teams not knowing what they're doing. And, first round picks will get a ton of opportunity. Non-draftees won't. And it's bad because it's what psychologists call the anchoring effect, right? It's a cognitive bias. The first impression of something is often stuck in people's head. And the first thing you know about Don Barlow is he wasn't drafted. So that is the lens you always view him through. And it's like, no, but who the fuck cares about that? When you watch him on the floor, what do your basketball eyes tell you? And if they don't tell you anything, well, maybe that's part of the problem. That your eyes aren't very good and you don't know what you're supposed to be looking for or watching. And this is where the gold is in the NBA. There are players all over the place that could help teams today, and teams will pay them no money, but most people in charge, because of where they are, their circumstance, or whatever, don't know what they're looking for and are already biased against them. And it's a shame. It really is.
It's just bad practices by many of these teams anyway. But Atlanta, at least, I mean, he had plenty of 2-way offers. I'm quite sure of that. So we'll see. It's up to Don now to do well, and hopefully Atlanta gives him the runway to get in the rotation and upgrade him to a real contract. And now you have 2 really good power forwards. I mean, I think Don's probably younger, but not by a lot. Jalen Johnson's young also.
Yeah. One last thing, the Cavaliers signed Jarrett Allen to a 3-year, $91 million extension. Now that can mean one of two things: that they plan on keeping him, or now he's that's trade bait now, right? And you can't trade him right away. It'll probably won't be till February or whenever the deadline is. But Jarrett Allen's proven that he's a very capable defender, rim protector in this league. I've said this to you before, David. When he was in Brooklyn, I saw him shooting threes in practice, and I'm like, it's never turned into a thing on the floor. But my God, if he ever gets the confidence to shoot and do that, that's what we talked about with Bam, right? I mean, obviously he's not as good as Bam, but a 5 who can protect the rim, rebound, do all that, and stretch out your other guy on the other end. It's a win in today's NBA.
Should be doing it all summer. And Cleveland Cleveland's done a good job. They retained Donovan, they retained Jarod, they've extended Mobley for a full max. They've done what they needed to do, and they made some other upgrades. Yeah, Cleveland's and they've changed coaches. Most important,
I'll be so curious to see what Kenny's able to do with this team that JB was not. If anything, I'm just different style, different voice, and what Kenny took, because I was familiar with him in Brooklyn, obviously coaching the Nets. What Kenny took from being Steve's lead assistant the past several years to coming now. Like, anything changed? What are we going to do? Time will tell. All right, guys, enjoy your weekend. I believe you'll get another Team USA game. What's today? Thursday? Before our show on Monday. This weekend. And then, they're already advanced. Then we'll talk about the knockout stage. All right, everybody. Take care.